spilled coffee and smashed cherries.
There you go.
I always refer to it as spilled coffee, but this time I remember.
Do you know what's funny?
And smashed
Speaking of
cherries.
which, I was going to mention this in the last episode on towels, that you've shortened some of my poems, like the titles, but
I do.
But it doesn't bother me as much. Like, I'm kind of rolling with it because it's like originally towels. It's like a long headline. It's like towels are not thrown but worn around necks.
Hey, so I can explain that. in band worlds, because like I cut my teeth like creatively in bands specifically, you know, and in bands when you're working on songs, you always have like short working titles. And so like a song might be called, I don't know, The Evolution of Everything. That might be the name of the song, but you'll just call it Fast Track. Because it's just like, oh, that's the fast one. Yeah, we'll just call that one Fast Track. Or we'll call that one Cowboy Bebop. Like, because we watched Cowboy Bebop that day. Whatever. It's just like, so I think that, like, I just come from that world of, like, just always, like, shorthanding things and, like, calling them whatever. But it did dawn on me at one point whenever I was, like, sending you files. I was like, oh, I hope she doesn't think that, like, I'm being dismissive of the titles. Because I have seen people get upset about that. And, like, I understand it. But, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I think it's probably that. Like, I'm just used to that. And it gets to the point where sometimes, even after a song is named and an album is out, the band members will still refer to it as like whatever the working title was. And so even a decade later, they're still calling it, you know, the fast one. And everyone's like, well, what song is that? It's like, oh, it's our biggest hit. Oh, why don't you call it by the name? It's like, well, we just always called it the fast one. I don't know. So yeah, spilled coffee.
I don't mind. I actually don't mind. It's thrown on me. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. We're going to call it the shorthand name. We're going to call it towels, or we're going to call it spilled coffee. But there is something about spilled coffee and smashed cherries. But I'm good either. I'm good either way.
Yeah. I think for me too, it's also just the coffee thing. It's just like,
spilled
that's
coffee.
I just like hone in on coffee. Talk to me about the song though. Talk to me about the genesis, and did you actually spill coffee? Like, what's going on?
Well,
is your coffee okay?
Origin...
Do you drink coffee? Hold on. Do you drink coffee?
Well, I used to drink a lot of coffee. When I was writing the book, I spent a couple of months, or a month here and a month there in Arizona, visiting my dad and working from Arizona. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in the States, it's bottomless coffee. Like, they don't have that in Europe. That is not a thing. There's no bottomless coffee here. You will pay for every cup of coffee.
Wait, you can't just go to the Waffle House and just get as much coffee as you want in Denmark?
There's no Waffle House. None of that exists. And you will pay for each and every coffee. So when I was like in Arizona, I was like, bottomless coffee. Plus I was writing a lot, so I felt like I really needed to be charged. So I was drinking a lot of coffee. And then I came home to she's like a homeopath. Like, this is a month later. And then she's like, no, your body does not want any more coffee. No more coffee for 10 months. Like, you got to go cold. But she didn't say no caffeine. So I do a matcha latte, and which I've come to love. And now I don't miss coffee anymore after months.
Right.
But yes, I used to be an avid coffee drinker. So spilled coffee. The origin of this is, you know, in the book, I talk about shape shifting a lot. A recovering nomad. I've moved and lived in so many different countries, went to 8 elementary and high schools. I've moved around my whole life. And Copenhagen was really where I settled roots, and I dropped anchor for the first time in my life. And that was the result of a conversation with my therapist after I had recently got divorced and stumbled into her office. And she was like, okay, it's time for a do-over. I'm ready for Paris. Paris, here I come. I had a job offer and everything. And she looked at me and she said, you could keep moving every couple of years for the rest of your life. 50, 60, you could keep moving. Not judging. No judging, just, you know. Or you could learn how to stay and develop a deeper relationship to a place, to yourself, to other people. And I was like, damn you. And no, the gift that she gave me was a reminder that I had a choice, right? Mm-hmm. And so all of that to say, that was part of my journey of returning to my original shape in some way. Mm-hmm. As someone who spent their life shape-shifting, which can be a gift, learning how to adapt to different cultures and environments, and kind of, but it also has a darker side, a shadow side, where, you know, if you keep changing shapes, how do you remember your original form? And
Sure.
sometimes you change shapes in order to fit in order to make nice, in order to not rock
Mm-hmm.
boats, in order to
Mm-hmm.
feel safe, in order to make other people feel okay and comfortable. And so, in many ways, Spilled Coffee was really about what it's like to have really, really big emotions, to have big feels, to be very big in many ways, and to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to shave off pieces of yourself to fit into other people's
Mm.
boxes, and
Yeah.
having this overflow and containment. So it's kind of like this expansion and contraction. So it's very much connected to this idea of self curating and shape shifting and bigness.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you say there's the shadow side to it. There's also, like you said, there's benefits to
Definitely.
it. And I know you as like someone that helps people creatively, and I find myself in that role at times too, or just in like our regular everyday life, this idea of like being all things to all people, like not in a effort to appease anyone outside of myself. Like it's not that, but we do have very many facets of ourselves, and there are different times, or there are different, the appropriateness changes from person to person, place to place, time to time, and it's not necessarily the same as what you're describing in Spilled Coffee and Smashed Cherries. But like, yeah, it's a similar idea. It's like there are times where I can be loud and boisterous and less concerned with other people, and there's times where I might need to sit down with someone and be a little bit quieter and a little bit more reflective with them. And so like, yeah, there's a light side to that too, because you have accessed so many different parts of yourself, and sometimes different situations call for different things.
True.
But it's about the intention behind it, is what it sounds like to me, is what you're describing.
Well, it's also a fine line between being attentive and considerate to other people and losing yourself.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
and I think
for
that's what
sure.
this is about. It's trying to fit into a path or a world that other people might say is for you, or trying to fit into environments that you might have grew out of. But if I was taught in many ways to learn how to fit into any space. That was part of a shapeshifter gift. I can put me anywhere. I can fit in any
Yeah,
space. This is part of
yeah,
moving all the time. That's what it gives you. I know how to read the energy in a room, and I know how to show up and serve what parts of me I think are needed. But sometimes something also gets lost in that,
yeah, it can.
And so for me, it's the poem in many ways is about that feeling of like, hey, I see you. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to shave off parts of you to fit in. And it's an invitation for you
Yeah,
to spill over, for me to spill over, for me like, yeah, just I'm gonna show up and fill up the room or fill up the space, or I'm just gonna show up in my original form. And I know that I'm gonna be
yeah,
okay in that form, whether I make other
yeah.
people feel okay or not. And I think as
Sure.
kids often we think we're the center of the universe, which is normal. It's part of being a kid. And so you think like if someone else is upset or something is going on, that's my fault. And so
Mm,
I have the power to make everybody else okay. But of course that's not true. I don't have
right,
the power
right,
to make
right.
anyone anything. I can only choose how I show up in the world. And
Hmm.
so that's the poem also says that towards the end. It's like, remember who's the one who's in charge of this shit,
Who's the
stacking
one?
plates,
Yeah. Who's the
who's the
one
one
loading?
loading.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
you.
yeah,
And so yeah, that was the inspiration. And I felt like it also connected to that theme in the book that felt important to express in a different way to bring people in.
yeah. I hear a lot. It feels like when I listen to the poem, I hear a lot of your story. Like it does feel like a very integral part to the greater narrative of the book. So it's cool to experience that. And do you feel like you said something earlier? You were talking about like your ability to walk in and feel the energy of a room or this or that. Like, are there parts of that journey that you're describing where now that you, because we talked, last week's episode on Thirsty about finding the true self, and like now that you are more anchored in that, are there those things that you maybe did then that you can now use in a more positive way? Do you find
Well, I
it
don't think it
helpful?
was negative or positive in a way. I don't know. Those words always sting a little bit. It's like, I don't
Hmm.
know if it was negative or if it was positive. I think it's just about being, this is a gift of getting older. They're not that many, but this is definitely one. I'm just
Hmm.
kidding. There's definitely one of them is that you feel more comfortable in your own skin. You feel
For
more
sure.
comfortable in the skin you're in. There's less of a desire or a need to have to put on another suit, put on another outfit to make things okay, to fit in, to do whatever. And so in that way, I love my ability to shapeshift, and it helps. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good thing. I can, when needed, as long as it doesn't take me further away from myself, because there are times that,
Yeah.
yes, I could choose. I know what's needed in this situation to make things like copacetic, but I'm going to choose not to
Hmm.
do that
Hmm.
because it's not my job. Like, I can just show up
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
I need to be and who I am and how I feel, or say what I need to say, of course, in a polite, respectful way, but just honor what I'm
Of
feeling,
course.
and pay more attention to that than what I feel is needed externally. And so I think it's just about discernment. It's being able to, it's like any superpower, man. You learn how to channel it, and how to channel it for good, and you have to be able to recognize the kryptonite of it too, like when it's used in a way that's not helpful for you.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting at, and that's the way that I interpret the way that our versions are different in terms of. But I think we all have done that. Like, we've all taken on, like, oh, I have to make sure that all this is okay. I think we all have our own versions of that, however it manifests, be it because you've moved so much and you've shapeshifted, or family issue, like whatever it is. And for me, I relate so much to what you're saying. It's this idea of like, now I feel so comfortable just
Mm.
being me. But I can still read the energy of a room, and it's not that I necessarily feel like it's my job to shift or whatever. But I find that some of those practices that I learned in a time where maybe I was, I'll say for myself, like not acting from a truer space or being more worried or being more concerned. Now I can just be me, be comfortable, be like you said, inside of myself, everything feels good. But I can still use a lot of those things.
Definitely.
And even in like creative environments, like I can feel the energy of a band. And if there's a tension between this and that, it's not that I feel that I have to, oh no, I have to make sure that they're okay. It's more like, oh, I know how to navigate this.
Yeah,
So I guess that's more of what I mean is like now I use it, like you said, like a superpower.
definitely.
Or I think of it like sometimes if you would go through trauma, maybe you're a little bit more, your senses are a little bit more up of, oh, that bad stuff is
Yep.
coming, which is like great as like a music producer because it's like, oh, I see where this problem is going to happen. I can see it before it comes. Let's go ahead and I guess that's more what I mean when I say like to use it in
I
a
get that.
positive way, is that it doesn't mean that I'm going back to the old self of like, oh no, I got to make sure. It's more like, I see what this is. Let me go ahead and use this little thing that I developed through all these years of struggle,
Yeah.
and it works like for good now. Is the way I think of it.
Well,
So,
I love
yeah,
that. I love that description, and then we're definitely saying the same thing. That definitely vibes. And some of the
yeah,
shifting also comes from growing up in a chaotic home. Like,
hmm,
when you grew up with alcohol in your family, at least I did,
hmm,
it's like you never know who's going to show up. You
hmm.
got to kind of,
And then with that, and that would change the way that you would then need to
yeah,
show up. I'm assuming as
as
a
a little
yeah, okay,
person,
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, like, how am I going
sure.
to manage this? Who do I need to be in
Mm.
this situation to make
Ah, gosh,
her
yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay so that I'm okay, right?
yeah.
And
Hmm.
so learning
Hmm.
how to quickly read a fluctuating energy, or when something's starting to tip, or the energy in a room. And I think what you're pointing to is heightened sensitivity, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah. Which we
yeah,
talked.
so we
Yeah.
have heightened sensitivity, and then I guess it's not even this positive spin. I think this is what art can do.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
like being able to transform might have grown out of pain or chaos,
Yeah.
and apply it in a way that actually leaves a positive impact, or that makes something in the world that
Yeah.
connects with people, or something that
Yeah.
people can relate to because there's a vulnerability in it. And in some way, I think we've all, as human beings, are shapeshifters, right? It's not unique to me, or you don't have to have a traumatic childhood to come out with it. And especially women are often taught like, you need to be socialized, you need to be this way, you know, don't be too loud, don't be too this. I mean, the list is long of the things you're not how you're supposed to be. And so it's really an invitation to fucking spill over, like spill over the cup and do you, be you, and know that you got it no matter what the situation might be. Like you can feel all the things. And I don't know if that all connected and made sense. There are like a lot of themes in my brain.
It does. It does. And it reminds me of this thing that I like to say, it's already here. And what I mean is like this, I hear some friends who are creative and artists, they're like, oh, my brain is messed up because of blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, but like, that's how your brain is. So like, you know, I'm not going to lament that maybe I went through things that might have made me hypervigilant and I'm more sensitive to things happening. Like, no, like it's already here.
Let's use it.
So like, let's use it. Like if I'm going to have to go through all of this stuff, I'm going to take the superpowers. I'm going to use them. I'm not going to go, oh no, my brain is broken. No, I don't feel that way at all. I like the way my brain works. I know that it's maybe not the same. Sometimes I see some people, even family members of mine, and I see how they're able to just like sit down and they just kind of like look at the wall and they're like not thinking of nothing. And I'm just like, wow, that must be nice. But that's just not the way my brain works. And it's not that I can't slow down. I meditate, I do these things, but I don't spend any time lamenting like, oh man, it sucks that my brain's this way. I'm like, how can I flip this?
I'm not a lamenter either. And I think the flipping is really important. We were given gifts in the shit. That's all I have to say. You know what I mean? We're given gifts in the shit. And then it's like, oh, wow, look at this gift. I have the capacity to really feel things, to also feel a room, to feel people, and change shapes in different ways, depending on like, I can, you know, I do think of the X-Men when I think of a shapeshifter. And I always did wonder, like, how will she remember to turn back into her original form if she keeps shapeshifting all the time? That's where that comes from.
That's so funny.
You know? And it's like, those are gifts that I can use as long as that I'm aware of when they might turn into the, not a curse, that sounds a little exaggerated, but you know.
A crutch maybe?
Like the opposite, right? So what's the opposite of a gift? Yeah. I don't know. It's like when it goes into the other side, and when it starts to take something away, right? A gift is something that's given, and when it starts to take something from you, maybe that's a good way of describing it. And so just being conscious of like when to make sure you're the one who's stacking. And that's a line from the poem, everyone. If you're like, what is she talking about? It's like, you're the one who's stacking. You're the one who gets to choose. You get to choose if you spill over like the waitress's breast coming out of her bra or the coffee that's spilling into the saucer. You know, you don't have to like put yourself in tight boxes, you know, unless again, that's something that you're choosing consciously to do and you get to step in and step out. So it's really a reminder of your creative power.
Yeah. Because it makes me think of, there are times where, let's just say for instance, if I go over to my sister's place and my niece and nephew are running around and it's 7:00 on a Friday and we're hyped up on ice cream, like I can be loud and crazy with them. And I love that aspect of myself because I like to do that. I like to be loud. I like to be a bit much. I like it. But then maybe if I'm sitting down with a friend who just lost a loved one, I'm going to be very different. And it's not that I'm like taking a part of myself and stuffing it. It's just like, that's another aspect of myself. And so, it's like being able to, like you're saying, like shapeshift, but not in a sense where you feel like you, I guess, just can't be something. It's almost more about flowing.
Yeah. Here's what just came up as I'm listening to you speak. It's like, if you imagine like Play-Doh or some kind of clay, it's instead of allowing other people to mold you, you mold yourself. You choose what shape you are. And that is the flip I'm talking about. So
that's
right.
Beautiful.
So when I was younger, it kind of felt like other people were making me into a shape. Of course I was the one doing that. But, you know, as a kid, it kind of felt like I had to.
I know.
And then now it's like, hey, wait a minute. I get to play with my Play-Doh. Like I get to make myself into shapes and also remember like the core source of who I am in that.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's about. Tell me more about the music. We can go to the vibe if you want before we jump in.
Yeah. Read me what the vibe was.
Sounds good. All right. Vibe. Overflowing, then boxed in, like an opening and a closing loop. Explosive spilling over and then tight containment. breathing deeply and then holding your breath, visible, then hidden. Music that captures the feeling of working within someone else's system while secretly building your own escape route.
Cool. I like that. I could see that. I could see that in the music for sure, especially the contraction and expansion back and forth. So what I remember from this song, again, like we talked a little while ago about towels, and I mentioned like an ESPN vibe. I don't know what that's about. Like sometimes I just go ESPN vibe. I don't even watch ESPN. that said, this was kind of like that a little bit. It's like not hip hop. Like it's not. I don't think that Spilled Coffee sounds like hip hop necessarily, but it is electronic and there is an edge to it. And I remember that the way that it sounds is the way it felt making it. It was just like to the point. Like let's go. Like again, I do tend to work fast. But I remember I did Between Scripts one day, and then the next day I did this song, and it was this like, let's go, let's make. And I was just, that week I was just kind of pumping out a lot of projects. But what I liked about Spilled Coffee musically that was different than the other ones is that it just had a different sense of space. Like it has these big bass hits that are like, dun, and there's like space, and then dun, and they kind of like happen a little bit pushed. It's a little bit, you know, it's trying to come out, I guess. And I remember as far as expansion and contraction, I did that with this like arpeggiator where it slowly over amount of time like kind of builds and gets louder and then boom, and then it comes back in again, and it just like goes right back into that box is the way that I was sort of envisioning it. And even like with the drums coming in, like then everything gets small again and comes back in, and then it does this and it comes back down. And I was sort of mimicking that idea that you're saying of like you kind of get big and then you stuff it back down again until at the end when the bass really starts to growl and everything opens up together and all the elements are coming, which I think a lot of is like the true self. Like we have all these facets of ourselves and we think of ourselves as one thing, but it's like you're not one thing. You're all of these things and they're all a part of you. And so by the very end, you hear all the elements together, all as loud as they can be, nothing held back before you, of course, end with, I know what it's like to be, what was the very ending? I know what it's like to be...
And freed again.
Yes, I know what it's like to be contained and freed again. And that's what I was going for, which sounds like your prompt. Yep. I was following that for sure. But yeah, and I will say the one thing that was, we mentioned this in a previous episode, the one thing that was very different about Spilled Coffee than any other track is we tried to go back and re-record vocals to it, but it never felt as good as whenever you just did it originally. I was trying to add more space so that the contractions and expansions were all the same amount of time, like the same amount of measures musically. And so I was like, it really makes sense to add an extra 4 measures here. Can we redo the vocals? Can you add a line? And we did that. And you did, I think, maybe even add a line. Or maybe you just said it slower. I
added a line and then we took it out. It was something about his mustache, sweat on his something. I don't remember anymore. Yeah,
right. Yeah. I think what it was is like I was trying to get the I know what it's like. I was trying to put those evenly spaced. And so I was like, if this one had a little bit more, they would all be even. And that's not a bad idea. And like it, you know, it could have felt good, but it just didn't. I remember when you sent me the thing and I went back and I adjusted it and we put it in. I remember thinking, I don't think it feels as good as the original, but I didn't say anything. And I sent it to you and you messaged back and you were like, I don't think it's as good as the original. I was like, yeah, okay, all right, good. And I'll do that often, like as a collaborator. I will withhold my opinion if it feels like it might be not, I don't think it was controversial, but like sometimes I'll hold back my opinion just to see, because it's like, I could make this work, but let's see what they feel. And you reflected it back instantly. You were just like, I think there was more magic in the original. I was like, there's more magic in the original for sure. So we just went back and that's what it ended up being. And I don't know, on some of these, I went back and added quite a bit of instrumentation, but for this one, it was very, very minimal. It was maybe like a synth pad just to fill in a little space, but pretty much whatever I wrote that first day, was pretty much what it was. It didn't change very much. That this was one of those. And yeah, I don't know. I like it. It's very, maybe I say this all the time. Maybe the album just has a lot of different vibes, but to me, it's like the one that feels like, I don't think anything else feels quite like this musically on the album. It's kind of a outlier, but I can still see the connective tissue to the other stuff. But yeah,
it's interesting you say that. It's like kind of an outlier as a poem in the series, in the fact that it's not as directly related to creativity. It is related, by the way, because
it is.
You know, we need to be able to inhabit our original skin, our unique sauce that makes us who we are, and to create from that place. That is essential to sharing our own unique expression that will look like what no one else is doing in the world, because it can't. It's coming from who we are, and there's only one of us, right?
Yeah.
And that will create that special flavor of creativity that only you can make, and that's what someone else needs, just like that, just that flavor, right? So it is connected, but it might not seem as directly connected when you read the poem at first, because I'm not necessarily talking about creativity or what we're going to create. It's more about not chopping parts of yourself off to fit, not trying to emulate someone else's way of doing things, or think that your way of expressing or creating or being in the world is not enough, so that you need to do it another way. So that's interesting that you say it's an outlier in that way too.
Yeah, I can see exactly what you're saying, because it does feel a little bit more like life, but that always brings back this thing of like art imitating life. They're really kind of the same thing.
And that life itself is a creative process. I think us trying to separate what's creative, what's not, is what leads to us getting stuck and to having contorted definitions of creativity that actually end up blocking us rather than unleashing us. So.
Right. Totally with you on that. Well, it was a fun song to do. Like I said, it just kind of like came out, but I really enjoyed just the to me, it was just like this, like, kind of feelings, you know, and I like it whenever we make things that feel like that. I like all the other stuff too, but there's something about whenever I can put a little edge in the music to sort of match that edge that you carry. It's always fun for me. I just really
me too. It was so fun to make. And it was actually really fun to go through the process of, you're like, hey, I think we need a little space. I need an extra line here. And then actually like, okay, I'm going to write, because it was like one line. So it's a little bit different than Where It Lives, because that was a series. This is one line. So like, oh shit. Okay. Yeah. And so, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to make something work. And then I actually was fine. I was happy with the line. I don't remember exactly what that was. It was something about like sweat populating his caterpillar mustache or something like that. and then you tried to put it in. And then it just didn't work, which I think there's some beauty in that. There's some beauty about like how it's just meant to flow rather than over engineering or over orchestrating something. Yes. And I think that was a big lesson. I don't know if it's a lesson or just something beautiful to observe about our own creative process.
Yeah.
A good reminder is like every time we, except for Where It Lives, that orchestration worked really well, because that felt deeper.
But here's what I'll say. If I'm remembering right, this was before the Where It Lives thing. So it almost in a sense like prepared us for, because when we did Where It Lives, that was like extra stanzas. Like you put 30 seconds or more onto it. And so we got both sides of the coin here, where it was like in one instance we tried, but we honored the fact that the original seemed to flow better, and we were going to disregard the structure, quote unquote. It wasn't as important. But then in Where It Lives, it was the other side, where it was like, actually, we're going to overhaul it. And it ended up being better that way, because it did create, like you said, we needed more time actually where creativity lives. And so we did need to leave the original idea to create something that seemed to flow better. So it's a good reminder, a good lesson of the idea of sometimes the way things are the way they should be, and sometimes they're not. And you just have to be open to trying, and then be honest about whether it works or not.
It's exactly that openness. I think the overall reminder or lesson is just to be open and to be curious and to be playful. And to be like, instead of going, oh no, I don't want to write a line, or it's being like, oh no, like, okay, well, let's explore that. Let's see what happens when we add a line, or let's see what happens. Oh, that wasn't work. And just the openness and trust and playfulness, which is a big theme of our co-creation, I think.
I was gonna say, like, I've learned a lot of lessons from you over the past
Same.
6 months, but we're naming one of the big ones that I feel like has really helped me out is like just that openness that you've always got whenever we're working on something. And I feel like it's helped me, of course, in the creative process, but also life. Like, it's one and the same. So yeah, it's one of the many lessons I've learned from
Hey,
you that I'm
it
grateful
was a
for.
shared lesson. Openness requires a revolving door, and so
Yeah.
we created that revolving door together. It
Yeah.
takes two. And that was also
Yeah,
a
sure.
beautiful lesson to see what's possible when we have that trust and that revolving open door of like, yeah, well, let's try, let's see how it works, and being open to suggestions and to killing our darlings and inviting new darlings in,
Yep.
and the whole nine. So
Yep.
I'm grateful too. You think we
Yeah.
should play it?
I
Let's
guess,
do
yeah. It
it.
feels like,
And
let's
in
do it.
honor of your naming, well, here's spilled coffee.
And smash cherries. I got to get it right at least once. Come on.
Spilled coffee and smashed cherries. A poem for those in boxes. I know what it's like to spill over into places you're not supposed to go. Coffee poured by an absent waitress, black liquid flowing into the saucer. Sorry, honey, she says. Bacon grease and white diamonds hover as she wipes the table with chipped coral nails. Breasts like jello threaten to escape her top. I know what it's like to shave parts off to fit into labeled boxes inside a small storage room that smells of frying oil and BO. Cuts that form scabs I pick until the skin turns into maraschino cherries. I know what it's like to leak. Drip, drip, drippin', feelings out the faucet a busboy tries to fix, sweat gathering at his brow, unable to stop the flow. I know what it's like to come apart, glass slipping from hand to floor, shards camouflaged by burnt fries, trying to find all the pieces that can't be put together again. The sloshing dishwasher mingles with George Michael, telling me to have faith, reminding me that things can be stacked and placed, made clean again, especially if you're the one loading. If you're a believer. I know what it's like to be contained and freed again.